Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake, and it is Wednesday. Ooh, Lord almighty, I gotta do the hair before we do the stream. That's a nightmare situation. But fortunately, we have good news, hair aside. It looks like voters are getting sick of a lack of action when it comes to all these shootings we got going on. It also looks like very popular channels are now talking about the reality of neoliberalism and how it has affected the American workplace. And by the way, it's affected countries around the world. The entirety of the world is realizing that the old economy doesn't work with the current level of technology that we have. It just doesn't make sense. So we have a channel with 1.5 million subscribers talking about that. Delighted to feature it. Also, it would appear that the Republican primaries are underway. Seems early to me, but okay. Sure. Halfway through the year before, okay. Fair enough. Let's let this clown show happen. I'm going to do some wild speculation about why that might be. And of course, I'm asking y'all what you think about it. But let's dive in to that the proper way, which is by your old pal Jake actually recording an intro. So here we are. One moment. Well, it's halfway through 2023, and I don't know about you, but to me, that seems like a totally normal time for the Republicans to start having primary debates for the 2024 election, which will take place towards the end of the year 2024. Striking while the iron's ice cold. Let's have a look at what they're up to. RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel just let announce this. This article is in USA Today. I took it from Yahoo News, usually a news aggregate. Sometimes they do write their own. Let's have a look here. This is by David Jackson. Well done reporting on it, Mr. Jackson. The leader of the Republican National Committee said Wednesday that the party and Fox News will co-host the first GOP debate of the primary season this August in Milwaukee. Okay, August isn't as bad as I was thinking. The debate is expected to be the first face-to-face between ex-President Donald Trump and his campaign rivals. The guest list is not yet set because some potential candidates have not officially declared their candidacy. Well, yeah. He repeats, the date of the debate has not been set. Oh, excuse me, he doesn't repeat. The specific date of the debate has not been set. The next president of the United States will be on our debate stage. No, they won't. And we look forward to hosting a fair and transparent platform, said RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, who made the announcement on the morning program Fox and Friends. The GOP picked Milwaukee as the site of the first debate because the Wisconsin city will host the party convention next year. Oh, I thought it would be the traditional, a famous evil person did their most evil act there and they wanted to celebrate that. You know, somebody who tried to kill a president or who knows, maybe a Hinckley. It's fair enough, though. It's for a non-insane reason. The GOP picked Milwaukee as the site of the first debate because the Wisconsin, yada, yada, yada. The debate over debates. No, we're going past that. Who's running? Here's the interesting pieces. Trump, defeated for re-election in 2020, has announced that he will seek the White House again in 2024. He is also running well under indictment, charged with false reporting of hush money payments in order to hide violations of campaign finance laws. He's also probably going to be under indictment for a whole lot of other things by then, including, and I can't stress this enough, mothering treason, starting a coup Just thought we'd really underline reality. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson have announced plans to seek the presidency. Haley, I actually think, is a not unreasonable person. Florida, well, yes, I think she's an unreasonable politician. I think she's an unreasonable human being. But as a choice in terms of somebody you might want to support other than Trump, that makes more sense. Like, in a sane world, she can carry on a conversation without accidentally doing a racial slur, or intentionally doing one. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is not expected to announce his candidacy until at least May. Remember, under current Florida law, the moment he announces his candidacy, he ain't allowed to be governor no more. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott said Thursday he has created an exploratory committee for a potential 2024 campaign that thus far, if they're returning to the age of reasonable Republicans, Tim Scott would be the guy. We'll see how indictments affect the country. Former Vice President Mike Pence is also mulling a 2024 presidential campaign. I'm sorry, this is going to be one of the first times in history that a guy is going to run for office for a party which has members that advocated for his hanging. In announcing the sponsorship of Fox News, McDaniel said other debate partners include the Young America's Foundation and the video platform Rumble. And I'm just going to assume Al-Qaeda. The debate announcement also came as Fox News is embroiled in a defamation suit with Dominion Voting Systems over news coverage of Trump's election protests in 2020, also known as helping with the coup. Hey, Republicans, honest to God, how do you look yourself in the mirror? You don't take yourself seriously, do you? Come on. You can't. You cannot expect us, like real adults, to take you seriously. You just can't. Look at that. One person who might be running literally can't. Literally is not allowed to under the state's current law. Gonna have to change the state's law to run. One person who's running tried to start a coup. Another person who's running, actually, let me just put this, did start a coup, did attempt a coup, and they failed. Another person who's running was that person's vice president. And a lot of the party wanted and still wants to hang them. And then who's sponsoring this? Well, it's Fox News, known for lying to you, known for having hosts that despise you and say so on their text. How do you, Republican voters, wake up in the morning, put your pants on, go brush your teeth, and catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and not just break down crying in shame and embarrassment? Good God. In addition to the New York indictment, Trump remains under investigation in Washington, D.C. and Atlanta in cases involving, that's multiple cases, involving the handling of classified documents and efforts to overturn his loss in Georgia to President Joe Biden. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing for Republicans, and they should feel embarrassed. And if you're not a Republican, you should do your part to make sure they feel embarrassed. They should feel what is called, is something they're not used to. You're going to have to introduce them to this. Shame. Oh, they're a bunch of damn clowns. All right, folks, now you know. What can you do? Enjoy the popcorn, baby. It's a disaster. Nobody is on the fence. If you're asking, are you Republican or not, it's, are you a traitor or not? That's the question. And you know what? Scary. 40% of Americans are traitors, sure. But we've had people on this channel come to us and say, I used to be a Republican, and then I saw what they really were. It's real easy to see what they were. And the hard thing to swallow is that this is what they've always been. They've always been treacherous clowns, basically. They just used to be less clownish and a little less treacherous because they didn't think they could get away with this stuff. And they found out not only can we get away with it, we can use this to fast track a lot of the things we want to do. And they did that. And they embraced the clownishness. And they embraced the treacherousness. And what did it result in? Made it obvious what they were all about. This is why short-term investments ain't as good, generally speaking, as long-term investments. Because as the days march on, we are seeing who they are. And we're seeing in the States with their little, their little test states. We're seeing what they would do for the country. And it's nightmare stuff. There will come a time when the nation regains its sanity. And the folks that participated in the evil that we're seeing now, I feel we will have an opportunity to bring to justice. I mean, in a court of law. I look forward to that. In the meantime, I look forward to watching the 2024 Republican presidential primary debates as we see who can out-Hitler each other without actually growing the tiny little mustache. Well, let's have a look at what the Wicked community has to say. Hey, Foxy Dragon. Hey, Rustbox. Good to see you. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, says Real Bill Pia. I'm sorry I didn't wear my sweater. Fall will return again, and chilly days in Michigan will jump out of nowhere. The sweater shall return. Ooh, Wireless Mike says, hey, Wicked peeps. Delighted. Good to see you. Just so you all know, oh no, says Wireless Mike, I can barely move today, so I'm not going to be sitting at the computer to comment much this stream, so I can rest my back. But I'm here watching. Much love, y'all. Wireless Mike, get well soon. That sucks. Ooh, lordy loo. Oh, Wireless, Wicked Foxy Dragon feeling stressed as well. We're going to de-stress you. How about that? We got some positive things to talk about. Dean Oldfield says the GOP is on life support. Someone, please pull the plug. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Jim Green says, greetings, friends. Greetings, my brother. Good to see you. By the way, I would say hit the like button if you haven't already, but I see who's watching. I see how many likes we have. Baby, this is the best audience on earth. I got nothing to ask regarding the like button, but I would be remiss. I'd be remiss if I didn't do my darndest to do a solid pitch for you. A solid pitch to grow the channel. Here it is. So the question is, how is this channel going to grow? How are we going to turn a collection of internet do-gooders into a functioning business that can just tear through the bad guys like a bag of Lay's? Well, going to be by taking a relatively small amount of effort and doing the most we possibly can with it. I'd like to pitch to you right here and now, joining the Wicked community as a lobbyist by purchasing a membership. Memberships are $5 a month. Not that expensive. But what do you get? Well, I'm going to be using that $5 a month to grow the channel, and I'm going to be using it as efficiently as possible. There's not going to be any fancy watches or cars for your old pal Jake. There's just going to be the thing that I take the most pleasure on earth with, and that is effing over bad guys and also helping out good guys. Here's what I can do with your $5 if you choose to give me $5 a month.
Private, electricity systems do the same kind of thing. And these are things that should be brought under public control. We have a question here from What You Can Do. Says, appreciate the super chat. Says, love the show. What's your opinion on contacting your representative to push them to endorse left policy? I mean, I think that, that's something that can be very viable. I mean, across the board, if representatives know that there's people out in the community who are watching their votes on certain things, that they're, that there's expectations of them to act in a certain way, that's something that's worthwhile. I think the most effective, though, is if you're doing that as part of a coalition or a group, right? I don't think it's wrong to necessarily do it individually, but, a larger scale strategy of pressure on congressional representatives like that stuff has like a lot of value. And like, look, we know like what the Democratic Party is. We know, where their positions are. But look at what happened, for example, with Brazil. Michael was not alone in this, but Michael Brooks made that a very big issue with like left progressive folks in this country. And you started to see things shift a lot with, elected Democratic Party representatives because they were being asked about Lula. They were being asked about Brazil. So they had this understanding that, there were people out there who were watching them and expecting them to act in a certain way. And that had effects in the way that, for example, in the most recent election, the United States posture to Bolsonaro's attempts to, deny the election results. That was a very, very different experience than what happened initially when Lula was falsely imprisoned, right? So, there's value in that for sure.
So with the money I generate on this channel, I will use it to grow this channel. I will use it to reach out to other content creators. I'll use it to grab their audience. I'll use it to direct us all, as the man stated, towards places where, towards points where putting pressure will be most effective. So if you've got it, if it's burning a hole in your pocket, consider signing up for the Wicked Lobbyist Club, also known as the Friends of Doris Leshevsky. There's also an added benefit that I threw in there last night, which is access to the document used to make this very show. If you join the club, you can see the show as it's being built. You can leave comments. You can desperately warn your old pal Jake not to do something as I'm writing a script. You can help shape the show as it's made. Of course, you can still help for free just by being here and talking to us live or leaving comments on the VOD. But if you want to affect it as it's being built, baby, become a member. What do you think? Was that a good pitch? I hope so. Hey, Dean Oldfield with the $5. Thank you so much. It means I'm going out tonight. We gonna ask another question to another lefty. Oh, my word. Functional business. Jakes, have the corpse gotten to you? Yes. Hey, Dean Oldfield. Welcome to the Friends of Doris. We got us a new member. Baby, love it. Jim Green says, leave comments on the bigger channels and mention Wicked as need to watch. My man, yes. Please. Please. I would never ask my audience to do that. But I would beg, yes, please. That's a great idea. Oh, please do. Well, what the hell? Let's have a gander at some of the network news, because even though they're very doom and gloom about all this, I can't stress enough what a big deal it is to hear this kind of stuff talked about on network news. I'll do a proper intro so you know what we're talking about in a moment, but I got to do that screen because otherwise I won't know what it is that I'm seeing. Well, there have been so many mass shootings that they're difficult to keep track of. And we're supposed to just let them all sort of become something that quietly nags at us, but we're never supposed to do anything. But that's changed, hadn't it? People care now. It's a wonderful reaction to a horrible event. We have actually found the limit that the American population has for this nonsense. Oh, it's wonderful. We have 2 videos demonstrating this, covering it from 2 different perspectives. I don't think I'm going to play the entirety of all of them. I just want you to see how this is being talked about, and I want you to appreciate the fact that, my God, we might actually be making some progress here. Believe it or not, it's good news. It just comes from a very sad situation. So let's have a look at who's talking about this.
Under current Kentucky law, the assault rifle that was used to murder 5 of our neighbors and shoot at rescuing police officers will one day be auctioned off. Think about that. That murder weapon will be back on the streets one day under Kentucky's current law.
That was Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg at a press conference this afternoon talking about the AR-15 assault rifle that the gunman in Louisville had legally purchased just a week ago, a weapon the gunman used yesterday to kill 5 people and wound 8 more at a Louisville bank. The mayor's office is going to make sure that the firing pin is removed from that weapon before it's handed over to the state, which will make the weapon temporarily inoperable. But that is all the state law allows it to do. Jesus. The gun has to be handed over to the state, and it has to be auctioned off unless state legislators change the law, which means that another AR-15 will be back.
Just look at that for a moment. That's devastating. Devastating. You know, that would be a great protest to do. If you do have, for example, a garden full of flowers and you don't have a ton of time, like you can't spend all day hanging outside your representative's office, here's something you can do. Especially if they're in Washington most of the time and they don't come to their office all that often. Go to their office with a bunch of flowers. Print out a list of the victims of mass shootings from this month. You know, how about just the Uvalde kids? How about just the folks from the last school, the Christian school that got shot up? And put little name tags on those flowers and just decorate. Just leave them outside, arrange them nicely, spread them out. But yeah, go to your representative's office and just leave that. Why not? Make them feel bad. You don't even have to announce it to the press or anything. Just keep doing it every once in a while. Every time, how about they vote no on a bill that would have saved these kids? Just leave them flowers. That'll be fun.
On the streets. Tonight, authorities in Louisville released body cam footage from yesterday's shooting that shows just how quickly the police were able to get to the scene and kill the shooter. There were 3 minutes between when the shooting started and when the police were called. There were then 3 more minutes between that call and when police got to the scene. And 3 minutes after that, the police had taken out the shooter. So it was an incredibly fast and brave response.
Let's just look at that again. Look at how terrified this guy is. This isn't slamming the cop. Let's look at this. Poor guy. Who knows if he signed up to be John McClane or to just write speeding tickets. But here, I got to get this assault rifle. 3 minutes between when
the shooting started and when the police were called.
Got to get this assault rifle. I got to run here. Falls over. I don't know if that was because he heard something or there was shots fired or what, but falls over, scrambles. Approaches. I mean, how much are we going to ask from our police? I'm not particularly sympathetic to police that are in trouble because they broke the law, but I'm real sympathetic to the cops that are just trying to do the job and they have to deal with this. Good God. But look, don't let what you're seeing now, disturbing though it is, bum you out about this situation. If this pisses you off, it probably pisses other people off too. Now, I've never been accused of humility. But the numbers are the numbers, and the fact is, more people watch Alex Wagner than they do your old pal Jake. And a lot of people just saw this. And a lot of people are wondering why this cop has to battle for his life in a civilized country.
But again, in just those 9 minutes, the shooter had killed 5 people and wounded 8 more. Now, there is surely going to be a lot of talk about this shooter's motive and mental state, but I think the mayor is right to be focused on the gun here. This type of gun in particular, which is the AR-15. If you remember just 2 weeks back, the shooter at the Nashville Covenant School also used an AR-15. They killed 6 people, 3 kids and 3 adults, in less than 15 minutes. The Club Q shooting that killed 5 people last year, also an AR-15. The Highland Park parade shooting last year on the 4th of July, that was an AR-15 style weapon. Uvalde, an AR-15. Buffalo, an AR-15. Of the 10 deadliest mass shootings since 2012, 6 of them used AR-15 style weapons. And even if they were not using the specific gun, all 10 of the deadliest mass shootings since 2012 used semi-automatic weapons with what are now known as large capacity magazines. They're probably what you think of when you think of an AR-15, the giant curved part coming out of the bottom that holds the bullets.
Oh, you know what? Wagner's doing so good. Why would I stop her?
Vietnam War, U.S. soldiers used magazines with 20 bullets in the war.
I mean, it's hard to ask for better than that. Pointing out what the problem is. Yeah, literally guns that outpace what we used to fight the Vietnam War with. Hold more bullets. Good God. And I realize there's your gun aficionados may have additional opinions for this or that with it. But the fact that we're even measuring this close with which gun was the deadlier, I mean, doesn't that just make the point? That wasn't all, though. I want you to, and I apologize to Brian Tyler Cohen if I don't actually show the part where he's talking, because I couldn't find this clip in isolation otherwise. But Brian Tyler Cohen played a clip of a Fox reporter, just a correspondent, just saying it like it is to the Fox audience. To the Fox audience. I was quite correctly corrected the other day, because I was saying the 67% was the Republicans. It's not. 43% or 42? Let's go low. 40. Let's just say 40% of Republicans voters want gun reform. That's still millions and millions of GOP voters. So now, imagine, is that percentage going to go up or down after this?
Fox News, from what I understand, that this shooter had phoned a friend and said that he was suicidal and that he was going to shoot up a bank. If that is the truth, then I think that we need to again look at what is going on in our society. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Well, that's not the definition of insanity. He's making a good point. I'm just going to put this pin in here because no matter how desperate and important the situation is, If I'm going to nitpick, it's going to be 100% of the time, even if I agree with what the person's saying. But yes, it's even if it's not the definition of insanity, it's madness to do nothing and expect a different result. The thing is, they don't expect a different result. They just want you to get used to kids and civilians of all stripes getting gunned down.
Just 2 weeks ago, I stood in front of a camera where you had some kids, some babies shot in Nashville, Tennessee, with a person who, by the way, had an AR-15. And from what we've been told here, Neil, this individual had that same kind of a weapon. And when you look at mental illness, if...
Hold on. Now, just what did we watch before? What was Alex Wagner on Fox's cable or network television, I guess, opposite, saying? The truth. It's the guns. We have military guns in the hands of just anybody that wants them. We have guns that we would not let a boot camp recruit use on day one until they've had instruction from somebody. In the hands of civilians. In a lot of places, zero training required, zero licensing required, no responsibility needed in order to own it. In other words, you don't have to be responsible to be a gun owner. I don't even want to give my opinion on responsible gun owners. I will because I've now mentioned them specifically, but I feel like it takes away from the point. My opinion on responsible gun owners, I've never had beef with them. Not once in my whole life. Why? Because I mostly don't even know who they are. I know one person in our audience. I'm sure there are more that are responsible gun owners. But it simply doesn't come up. Why? Because their gun isn't just sitting on the kitchen counter. Because they have it stored safely. Because they treat it like it's what it is. An incredibly dangerous device. Fox and MSNBC have now featured segments that focus on the problem, which is the fact that, yeah, we do have people in our society who are crashing hard. And when they crash, they can reach out and pick up an assault rifle.
Mental illness is involved here. And that weapon, that's a dangerous concoction. And we've got to do something in this society, Neil. I am sick and tired of standing in front of a camera. Neil, you and I have been on numerous occasions where people, young people, have lost their lives. 4 people left home this morning, and 4 people are not coming home tonight. That is something that we need to take into consideration. And when the governor says we shouldn't talk about certain things now, well, then I have to disagree with the government. We have to talk about guns. AR-15 are killing our babies and our citizens in this country, and we've got to do something about it.
So I'm going to freeze it there for a moment because credit where it's due. Brian Tyler Cohen, or his editor, or whoever the hell, found that clip and highlighted it yesterday. And he goes on to do 6 more minutes of commentary. That was fantastic. I've linked to the Brian Tyler Cohen video in the description. Check it out if you're interested in this. I thought it was damn good. But what I wanted to show you were the fact that we have got two major networks on opposite sides of the political aisle as far as network news is concerned, or just television news is concerned, saying the same thing, and by God, it happens to be the truth. And what's that sound? Can you hear it? Well, that's the pain train, baby. It's coming for the NRA. I mean, I realize it's a dark thing to be happy about, but the reality is this stuff, I mean, why are we brought down by it? Why does it bum us out in the first place? Because it happens again and again and again and again. It was happening. It's been happening decades now. Constant. What I haven't seen is a Fox News commentator blowing up on air and saying, "What are you talking about? It's the AR-15." The same night, or within a few nights of that, freaking Alex Wagner is over there saying, "Okay, you latte liberals, here's the problem. Here's something we got to get serious about." And laying it out. Excellent. Just excellent. Overall, I think this is a sign of the Overton window changing on this significantly. Of course, to give us our best shot at real gun reform, vote in primaries. Vote in primaries. Go as left as you can. You know what? If you're a Republican, vote in primaries. Go as centrist as you can. Go for reasonable human beings. And when you're explaining to your friends and family who may ask about why you're choosing to vote blue in 2024, if that's what you're doing, explain this. Look, there's dead kids in schools. There is no reasonable gun reform, and there's no demand from the government that just like somebody who's allowed to operate a car out in public, there's no demand that gun owners be responsible gun owners. There's no regulation for our militias. So explain that. And I believe you will sway folks to the side of sanity. At least I hope so. Check out what the Wicked community has to say about this. What do you say? Ooh. At what you can do, says Wicked Foxy Dragon, I used your spreadsheet to list an article that is very interesting about what data tells us about mass shooters. I will look at that. Thank you. Zix1326 says, wasn't the NRA on its last financial legs just a few years ago when the head guy was indicted? Hell of a comeback. Yeah, they got a ton of donations. But I will look into that a little bit more, because you're right, come to think of it. They were on their last legs. They were doing real bad, and suddenly they're back. Fun fact, Trump was on his last legs financially. Let's get this tea out, which is a delicious A&W root beer. Trump was on his last legs right before a Miami-based investment firm bought the old post office, that hotel that he had in Washington. And they bought it for way more than anybody said it was worth. I'm going to follow up on that as well, because there literally is the person who leads that group has a background that involves working with people around the world, including the Ruskies. Mars Falcon, I saw part of this clip. The guy is always blaming Democrats for all ills in society. Here he manages to actually just report the problem without partisan hackery. He was in rare form. Yeah. I don't think I did a fair enough job of saying who that is, because I watched the Brian Tyler Cohen video, and I guess maybe I was relying on him saying it. That guy is just like a standard Fox commentator, I guess. He's the person they bring on to say, here's an expert from out who's a friend of the show or whatever. And Yeah, it's all over Democrats. He blames them for everything. So it's not like that guy is a reasonable voice that they bring in very rarely. So it's amazing. I mean, I'm delighted that we are seeing this happen. Dean Oldfield says, overturn Citizens United. Oh, yes, sir. What we have for that is a group called... Well, shoot, I can't recall the name of the group. Fortunately, there's a website that lists out who they are. You see, there's a plan for getting big money out of politics. Happens to be over on wickednetwork.com. Let me just go to guides and then click on Get Big Money Out of Politics. Open this up. Copy video URL. Sure. Probably write that guide out, huh? Citizens Take Action is the group. And in that video, there is a link to their plan for getting big money out of politics. I'll link the video here in the chat. You guys ever want to check that out? And if you're watching the replay of this later, you want to check it out. There you go. Jim Green, I thought Jim Jordan was being investigated for some coaching sexual abuse stuff. What happened to that story? Yeah, I mean, I don't recall him being actually investigated, but maybe he was. Maybe. Let's keep this going, because we got something else on here that I really wanted to show y'all. Assuming I did. Oh, yes, I did download it. Neat. First, let's take a moment. Let's just enjoy the fact that the whole world has, or at least America, has woken up politically. Here's a comedian having a chuckle. I should probably, about Joe Biden. I should probably record this, though. Good God. Well, the world has begun to wake up politically. It's kind of fun. This includes, I mean, we've always had stand-up comics talking about politics. Yeah, but I haven't heard them nail it quite so well as I have with the stand-up comedy of these days. I thought it might be fun, a little palate cleanser for us in between the serious stuff, to play something from Don't Tell Comedy, which nails, the voters who support Biden, their general feelings about the man, and the difference between how a Biden voter thinks of Joe Biden versus how a Trump voter thinks of Donald Trump, which is to say, worship it ain't.
Joe Biden's presidency is like smoking on okay weed. You're grateful, it's doing its job, but you know in your heart there's better out there. This Biden pack is pretty mid. He's just so old and fragile. That teleprompter's whooping his ass. You see it? He be over there squinting like he's seeing the light, like the light. Not yet, Lord. Not mid-speech. You know his prompter font on 99. You know how old people text, just big and bold, for no reason.
All right. That's how I text.
He done caught COVID twice. You know Kamala over there just stretching, just getting ready. You gonna get your first female black president. She over there just working that sworn-in shoulder.
Oh, nailed it. Well done. I don't know. I think everybody's asking, will Joe Biden run again? Or a lot of folks are asking that. Kamala, I think, is the question. Will Kamala let Joe Biden not run again? Oh, Lordy. Yeah, I got a kick out of that. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say there is such a thing as a Biden superfan, at least not as a significant group of voters. There's plenty of I'm voting for Joe Biden in 2024. There's not a lot of like, yeah, Biden. I find it telling, and in a good way. I feel like even the people that adored Kennedy, you shouldn't adore these people. These our politicians, our most powerful politicians should ever be people who were like, you ain't special. They should be like an employee that we don't really trust because we know their character and we don't think much of it. But we can't argue with the fact that it would be easier to keep them than replace them. That's how we should view our presidents. Oh, it's good times. Mars Falcon, in seeking reincorporation, the NRA would be changing its legal home. Ooh, interesting. And changing which state's laws will govern it. Trying to move to Texas. Interesting. Okay. Wireless Mike says, Biden wasn't my first choice for candidate, but I've been pleasantly surprised by Dark Brandon. I'd vote for him again. Yeah. Truly. I mean, you want to hear something effed up? In terms of, not his rhetoric, but in terms of the actual legislation he has either gotten done or tried to get done. Like, legitimately didn't sabotage it himself as far as I can tell. Biden, he might be the most progressive president of my lifetime. The only thing for Obama in that, well, no. The Affordable Care Act was a genuine attempt at universal health care. I withdraw that. And of course, the gay marriage thing. But I don't think that was truly Barack Obama as much as it was the people of the United States. But he was there. I take it back. So, but nonetheless, I agree with the general sentiment. He was Biden was he's been surprisingly good. And what's been really cool is that the people of America have smelled him out and know that he doesn't really believe in much, at least in terms of specifics. He'll go with where the wind is blowing. And so the American voters have been like, I'm going to blow left. For God's sake, it's been great to watch. Well, let's produce some more of that content, y'all, because there's one. There's one that I've been waiting to do, and before we record that, I'm going to shamelessly do some advertisement for somebody that hasn't paid me any money, and it's got nothing to do with politics. Right here in the link is a person who, or in the live chat, is somebody who's they look like they're starting out in animation. It's WTF Horror and Sci-Fi. It's a fun little channel, and they just did a spooky ghost story about dog men of Michigan. So, I had to share it. Dean Oldfield says Dark Brandon is crushing it for an ancient. Yes, he really is. He genuinely is. And baby, he's been enjoying drawing a little bit of blood. That's been amazing to see. Once he realized that he could get some of these itchits who are like the ultra MAGA, as he says, to fall for obvious political traps, he's just been having a ball. Keep it going, Dark Brandon. Yeah, I'm a reluctant Biden voter, and I'm a happy, excited, enthusiastic Dark Brandon voter for sure. Okay, we do have this set up. I'm going to do a little intro here. because this is the video that I'm most excited about. Once in a while, I will... let's just do the intro. Hard to remember to do the intro. Once in a while, I'll do a video, and then I'll, a couple weeks later, I'll do that stereotypical rip off my hat and stomp on it and because somebody does better. Yep, here's one such video. And, subscribe to the guy or don't subscribe to him. You don't have to worry about him. He's got 1.5 million subscribers. But the good news for the world is that that's 1.5 million people that were likely to view this video, which is very important. I have things to add, however. So we're going to talk about that on the other side, and I'm, of course, going to chime in from time to time during the video. But the core concept here is, why the hell are we working this hard? Are you exhausted? Are your kids exhausted? Do you see young folks not building any wealth? Why is that happening? Well, in just 16 minutes, this guy breaks it down. So we're going to show most of that, because I'll tell you, I was hanging on every word. Here he is. This is from the channel Second Thought.
This episode is brought to you by Nebula. Stay tuned for an exciting announcement at the end of the video, and snag a little discount when you sign up with my link.
For the record, the announcement is that he's on Nebula now. Here we go.
We're very attached to the idea that things just keep getting better for every new generation. Like how before, there weren't any iPads, but now, we all have iPads. Fruit Ninja. Sadly, that steady march of progress narrative,
fortunately, he doesn't take that many whacks at comedy.
Doesn't really hold up. Of course, a lot of things are better now than a few generations ago, don't get me wrong. However, the unfortunate reality is that there's a disturbing trend with work today. New jobs are declining in quality across a lot of different and incredibly important metrics. And you probably already know that. Odds are, your job sucks. But it's often hard to take...
Baby, give me that data lit by those IKEA lamps. Hell yes.
...that personal experience and put it in the context of a whole economy. Because whatever you're picturing, however horrible you're imagining the general state of work being, I guarantee what I'm about to talk about is a lot worse. There's a lot of different ways to measure job quality, but the most obvious one is money. Jobs don't pay as much anymore. For starters, pay has not kept up with productivity. We produce far more goods and services per hour than we used to, and up to the 70s, this increase in productivity tracked almost perfectly with an increase in hourly pay. More productivity equaled more money in the pockets of workers. Since then, however, productivity has gone up every year, by around 75% between then and now. But hourly wages have only risen a tiny 9%. So, where's the money gone? Unsurprisingly, most of the profit generated from that increase in productivity hasn't gone to workers. It's been captured by the 1%, whose wages have fully gone up an insane 138%. That's kind of abstract. Let me put it in more concrete terms. This inequality has cost what most Americans consider middle-class families $18,000 a year, $76K instead of $94. But you're clever. You look at the graphs and you see that even though inequality is some of the worst it's ever been, the line at the bottom is still going up, even if just barely. But does that mean wages are rising? Not really. For the bottom 50% of the population, in other words, the average American, pre-tax, pre-benefits income has actually gone down by over 6% since 1980. And that's before you factor in the cost of living. That means things like inflation, which we'll get into later, but it also just means what kinds of expenses people are now responsible for that they didn't used to be. For example, since the 80s, employers have cut down on healthcare benefits. They've also made job training increasingly an individual responsibility. Student loan debt has only gotten bigger, the cost of not getting a college degree has only grown, and
you guys are fantastic for this. I'm gonna lean on the Wicked community a little bit. Could this microphone wiggle just a little bit more? That's all I want to change about this show, is just a more wiggly mic. It's sarcasm, dripping with sarcasm. No, you guys are really good at something I think needs to be done about what we're seeing right here. He just talked about a bunch of different aspects of the same thing. But there is no phrase that encapsulates all of that. I don't have one. I spent this morning eating pancakes and trying to think of one. I didn't get one. I got a lot of pancakes, though. It wasn't a total loss. But despite now having the consistency of a wet bag of cement, I cannot come up with a phrase. So we need a phrase. Let me know in the comments if one comes to mind right now. If not, let me know later. We need a phrase that means the quality of life for the average worker in America. Another way to put it would be those forces that make it harder to earn a decent life. Those forces that make middle class, if that's a phrase you're cool with, living harder. All of those collective forces. That's what we need a phrase for, because that's what we need to start talking about. Because the healthcare conversation, you will find, ends up just being an economics conversation. So do, in fact, most conversations that deal with the quality of life for the average American. Most, not all.
Yet the benefits of having one are only going down. And this isn't just in education. People are needing to take on a lot more debt for just about everything. And I do mean need. Prices on essential goods way outpace wages year after year. So just to get by, credit has become an essential part of a home budget. This is part of a larger trend within neoliberalism, where responsibility and costs for all sorts of things, like job training, healthcare, and retirement, are shifting increasingly onto the shoulders of individuals who are making less and therefore need to resort to debt to get by. Today, the average American has 90 grand worth of debt hanging over their head, and debt as a percentage of income has only gone up since the 50s. All this has another effect on work. Not only do we work for less on average, we also work longer. Year over year, working hours in the US have actually remained relatively stagnant. But because wages have gone down in practical terms and personal expenses have gone up with the gutting of social services and costs borne by employers, we spend more of our lives at work. Over the past 30 years, the average age of retirement has gone up from 62 to 65. And last fall, Republicans actually started floating a plan to push retirement even later by delaying when people can receive full Social Security benefits and Medicare.
I want to leave it on that particular clown, Kevin McCarthy. Big fan of attacking that. Remember, his pal, who, by the way, I'm not convinced isn't going to be running in 2024, Paul Ryan, he tried on his way out to gut Social Security. Basically, the leaders in America want the citizenry to work themselves to death. They basically are trying to create slavery again, just with kinder words. Peasants is what they want. They don't want American citizens. They want people who are, their literal lives are owed to the company and to the job. And we constantly hear things like, do what you love for a living and you'll never work another day in your life. And the idea is supposed to be that we just become one with our jobs. Jesus Christ. The job is just division of labor that we agree needs to be done. That's all it is. Imagine we're a tribal society again. Some of us got to hunt. Some of us got to plant seeds. Some of us got to make the spears. Some of us got to make the tents or the houses, the log cabins, whatever. I don't know what part of the world this tribe is in theoretically. Whatever makes sense for the climate. But once that stuff is done, what are we gonna? We're gonna withhold the extra food we have because Jim didn't make any spears yet. We have all the spears we need. We don't need more spears. We don't need more sewing needles. We got all the thread. We have years and years of thread stocked up. We don't need anything more. Nope. No. Because we live in the system we live, Jim's got to go do just, I guess, jumping jacks. It's crazy. Now, obviously, we have ambition beyond where we currently are. And obviously, yeah, we don't want people just taking advantage of the hard work of other people. But in our obsession with making sure that poor people don't dare take advantage of the hard work of other people, what we've done is allowed filthy rich people to take advantage of it. Let them keep going.
I actually covered this topic about a year ago, but these kinds of policies actively target poorer Americans who rely on Social Security and are way more likely to die before reaching retirement age than their wealthier counterparts.
Yes,
just
sir.
so you get an idea of how prevalent this trend is, the same thing just happened in France as we were putting this video together. The country is on fire because, despite disapproval from the overwhelming majority of French people, the neoliberal President Macron raised the retirement age by going around the parliament. Like the Republicans did in the fall with their plan to make Americans work longer, Macron cited budget concerns and the upcoming insolvency of these retirement funds.
Y'all want to know why I talk about neoliberal this, neoliberal that? It's the reason you have Democrats in the United States doing disastrous things for the American people. Neoliberalism wormed its way in to our leader. It's like a fun fad that wriggled its way in to the thought processes of like the culture of the leadership of our countries. Our countries, what am I talking about? The alliance in the West. For a while, since like the 80s, it has been just accepted that neoliberalism is the way to guide a country. It's like what the mature, smart people realize is the really important thing. It's just making there be no rules for business people. It's just making life harder for the poor. It's neoliberalism that results in things like America literally trying to maintain a certain amount of unemployment, have a certain amount of suffering, because neoliberals believe, because they're idiots, that this is the way a country functions best. By the way, neoliberalism, at least according to Tom Hartman's book, inevitably leads to fascism.
But make no mistake, the reason retirement...
Oh, and France has the right reaction to this. I haven't been talking about France as much, to my shame. But they have the correct reaction to this. I need to look, what I'm trying to figure out is how we can best recreate, with what we have available now, the protections that the French people have that allow them to be able to maintain protests like this. But hell, if it comes down to it, if the mood's right, a lot of us can just say, I dare you to evict me when I don't pay rent. I'm not going to work till y'all fix this.
Retirement funds are going to be insolvent isn't because people aren't...
I just, let's look at every other option first.
...working hard enough, but because the wealth that they produce isn't going in their pockets or into funding these necessities. It's going to billionaires. But let's get back on track. None of these trends are helped, by the way, by another aspect of job quality that keeps declining: security. More and more people are being brought into more precarious work on an intermittent, irregular, or contractual basis. The new name for it is quiet hiring. But for years now, companies like Uber and their gig economy clones have been selling it as flexibility. Jobs are less secure today than in the past. You're more easily fired. Protections for workers are less well enforced under contractor status. Unionization is either impossible or downright illegal. And neither pay nor benefits are nearly as good, with the latter rarely ever being provided. And it's not restricted to just one or two sectors of the economy. These jobs are everywhere. 53% of people between 18 and 34 and who work in the gig economy do so as their primary income source. And according to a Princeton study, 94% of the net employment growth in the US between 2005 and 2015 has been in, quote, alternative work arrangements, meaning independent contractors, temp work, and freelancing are basically the only new jobs our economy is producing. The consequences are bleak. Unreliable work comes with a lot of insecurity. We know that capitalism regularly spirals into recession, around every 5 years at this point. So with the likelihood of a recession in 2023 seemingly really high, 80% of US workers, according to one study, is worried about losing their job. Regardless of the exact number today, this kind of anxiety about job security under neoliberal capitalism is always widespread. And it's another variable that makes work worse and makes wages stagnate.
Going to pause it for one moment to stress, I think this video is useful enough that we should watch the whole damn thing. I mean, every inch of this is a great explanation for what's going on. It's accurate. The brother shows the facts. I mean, it's like he's flirting with me. But I probably won't do this for the smaller channels because I wouldn't want to eat up their views. And in that spirit, I do want to encourage you, if you're not already, consider subscribing to this cat, because he does fine work, truly.
Workers are constantly worried about keeping their job, so they exercise wage restraint. They don't ask for a pay raise despite needing it because they're worried it could get them fired. This isn't helped by the fact that neoliberal politicians actively promote this wage restraint behavior by lying to people about the relationship between wages and inflation.
Right there. So why does your old pal Jake have so much venom for Democrats? It's not venom for lefties. It is because that's the normal way American politics has functioned my whole life. It wasn't until we got Justice Democrats and true progressives. Frankly, it wasn't until Bernie Sanders, he had that amazing presidential run in 2016. Which, fun fact, was helped, this is truth now, was helped by Russian propaganda. That doesn't make Russia the good guys, for the record. That just really made me aware of how we can use bad guys, their own strategies against them. Because the same Russian propaganda is what got Trump in office, one could argue. But nonetheless, it wasn't until then that there really started to be conversations about how this stuff actually worked. And suddenly, it wasn't really that complex. Suddenly, it wasn't, oh, you wouldn't understand. And, oh, I know you're reading this chart, but you're reading this chart wrong somehow. Or oh, this study that shows the American median income is poppycock for reasons I'm just going to skate past. Yeah, that's what we were getting fed constantly, and that's neoliberal belief. And by the way, neoliberalism, it tells its adherents that it's fine to do this, and in fact, that the average voter really can't be trusted with the facts. That's a huge part of neoliberalism. It's poison. You wonder why the Democrats were so weak? And they had to learn how to fight back against Republicans after Trump got into office. You want to know why the news media was so watery and weak? It was this. We'd all been, both parties, GOP and Democrats, had been just drinking this Kool-Aid hard for decades leading up to 2016. And it was only then that people actually developed an interest in how things work, and we had real leaders emerge amongst us. I'm talking your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes. I'm talking your Pramila Jayapals. Honest-to-God leadership. John Fetterman, my God. Honest-to-God leadership, which was going to take real haymaker swings at this.
Wage restraint behavior by lying to people about the relationship between wages and inflation. In case you're wondering, by the way, wages and inflation aren't related. The wage price spiral is BS. You can get a raise without making inflation worse. Here's a study on that. I think I forgot to print that one. Okay, here we go.
All right, that's pretty good.
Proof is on the bottom of page 5, top of page 6. We got too many printouts here. Let's move on. Look, if that wasn't enough, kids aren't being spared from declining job quality either. Child labor laws are starting to come down all across the country. According to the Economic Policy Institute, 10 states are introducing or have already passed legislation weakening child labor laws, despite the fact that violations of child labor protections are actually on the rise. Saying it like that is a little vague. Let me read you some details off the list of these bills. In Arkansas, a bill was passed that eliminates age verification and parent-guardian permission requirements. In Iowa and Minnesota, bills were introduced to lift restrictions on hazardous work. And in all these states, bills were introduced or enacted that extended working hours for minors. And I know that right now you're probably thinking of kids in their late teens working the register or in fast food kitchens. Jobs that are grueling but often get depicted as easy. Those aren't the only jobs kids are doing right now, and they're a lot younger than what you're picturing. For example, in their report, the EPI mentions violations happening in meatpacking facilities, where over 100 kids between 13 and 17 are working illegal overnight shifts, handling dangerous chemicals, and, quote, cleaning razor-sharp saws and other high-risk equipment on slaughterhouse kill floors. It's giving the 21st century a real cool, retro 1900s vibe. But it gets even worse in agriculture, where 33 kids are injured every day in the US because so long as they have parental authorization, 14-year-olds get to use machetes and work with dangerous pesticides for unlimited hours with barely any sort of safety regulations in place.
Oh, it's worse than that. This factors into the immigration debate. Who are those 14-year-old agricultural workers? Well, guess what? When the government man comes by, lady takes out her pen and her notebook and looks around at the workers. Sees a 14-year-old. They can just say there's no law that says there can't be that 14-year-old working there. I see that little brown kid. Saw him at the beginning of the day. Did 12 hours of rounds around here. I'm returning at the end of the day. I still see him working. But he's allowed to. I don't have to look into this. It's to allow the abhorrent conditions of child labor that immigrants will be put in. Yeah, I'm sure they'll abuse American citizens if they can as well. But the depths of the evil we're talking about here, boring though it is pitched in the halls of Congress, little changes here and there to child labor laws. It can't be underestimated. It is the most wretched thing we could choose to do, and we've chosen to do it.
Oftentimes, by the way, making less than minimum wage. How fun is that? Speaking of demanding work, let's turn back to France for a second, because they actually measure the intensification of work over there. Back in the 80s, around 12% of French salaried workers had a physically strenuous job. Now, 40 years later, with all the developments we've made in automation that should make work easier, that number's gone up to 34%. And it's not just physical strain. Over the same time period, the number of salaried workers with a mentally strenuous job went up from 6 to 35%. If we can assume that these numbers are relatively generalizable to a similarly developed country like the US, more Americans, contrary to the popular narrative, have harder, not easier jobs. By and large, the increase in productivity, the leaner operations, and the more efficient pace of work that came with advanced technology mean a lot more intensive a turnaround for workers today than at any other point in history. But let's give up the national lens for a second.
Now let's stick with this. Here's a fun story from my days in the news industry. I will be generous and not mention the specific station, but I got put into a position of leadership quite unexpectedly at a news station I was working at. And that's because the guy that should have been my boss just wasn't there. Never showed up for work. Why was that? Well, I asked what happened to him. They said he the week before I got there, they found him curled up under his desk during the live show. Literally in the fetal position under his desk. That's how bad the stress was. Not trying to humble brag here. There's sometimes you can avoid stress by simply not giving and that's not necessarily healthy. But this cat, I'll give him a more dignified. Come on now. This cat is talking about a very real thing, the mental stress that can be put on you, and I'm positive that my industry during this time was not the one getting the most mental stress, because this was during the days of COVID. And folks, I'll tell you, nurses had it worse. Can't be underestimated. And it's ridiculous that we are truly, collectively, all of us, are just allowing this to go on. We could simply decide, if enough of us did, we could simply decide that things work differently now, that life is going to be easier for us, all of us. We just decide that. We can just decide that Elon Musk can only be super uber rich instead of super uber ultra mega zany rich. We could just decide that. And in exchange for that, we could eliminate, for example, all student debt. Billionaires during the pandemic made $2 trillion more than they had. Student debt, $1.8 trillion. Shave and a haircut, 2 pence.
Efficient pace of work that came with advanced technology mean a lot more intensive a turnaround for workers today than at any other point in history. But let's give up the national lens for a second. A lot of the idea that work keeps improving probably comes from the fact that the US has moved from a manufacturing and manual labor economy to a service economy. Jobs that are widely and unfairly considered easy. But let's, for the sake of argument, say they are easier. Just because Americans aren't in factories as much as before doesn't mean those jobs have disappeared. Work hasn't gotten better. All that's happened is that these factory jobs have been thrown onto other people's backs who just happen to live in other countries. We didn't transition to a service economy by eliminating factory labor, but by having wealthy countries force open foreign markets to American and European capital so that they could be the ones to take on this burden. Because when companies move their manufacturing overseas, it's usually to take advantage of lower wages and less stringent safety requirements. Once again, worsening job quality. What most of these trends find in common is the shift in the balance of power away from workers and towards capitalists, the owners of businesses. The more power capitalists have, the more they're able to extract profit from workers by any means. Hence, jobs get worse. As evidence of this shift, just look at unionization trends. Since around the 60s, unionization has gone way down, and in perfect mirror image, the share of income held by the top 10% has gone up.
Drink that in. We gonna return to that.
But this growth of capitalist power isn't limited to unionization. Capitalists in the neoliberal era have helped to elect politicians that weaken workers in every imaginable way. Politicians that strip away social safety nets, like Reagan and Clinton, that weaken bargaining power and defund the NLRB, like Trump, that force open foreign countries' borders to America.
All three of those guys. Christ. God damn.
American companies, like what's happened in East Asia and Latin America. All of these things contribute to creating a more vulnerable, less powerful workforce that can be taken advantage of more easily, that is more likely to be unemployed or underemployed, that year after year has to contend with more and more obstacles to living a comfortable life. Through these combined efforts, capitalists are able to wield more power in negotiations with workers, push wages down, strip their access to healthcare, union bust indiscriminately, and personally accumulate wealth at levels we haven't seen in all of human history. And none of this is to romanticize the 50s or some bygone era, by the way. Those were not good times for anyone not like this. Trying to turn back the clock isn't going to solve any of these problems. The seeds of declining job quality were already there back then. You recreate a New Deal social democracy in the US today, and within a couple years it'll melt back into neoliberalism because it isn't a solution that takes away capitalist power, nor their need to make profits at all costs.
Now this is interesting to me. Real talk with you here. I didn't fully understand what he was saying first time through. Maybe we can understand it together. And because this is probably going to become a hell of a lot more of a back and forth, let's read some comments as we are in the entering the last part of the video. Oh. We got a ton of interesting ones. Good God almighty. Well, Catherine Wolf says, I can't believe how many of my channels you spotlight. I've been watching Second Thought for about 2 years. Well, delighted, Catherine Wolf. I don't think that's a coincidence, though. I tend to spotlight channels on here that are going to be helpful to those folks that have gotten woke. Because it's useful information about what we can do. How do we understand these problems so we can tackle them? So I'm not surprised that I'm showing a lot of your faves. I'm just delighted to hear it because that was the intention. Franny P. 1980s employers often provided health care, yes, but also paid for a fully funded retirement plan, not 401k junk, life insurance, vacation, and sick leave, now reduced to paid time off. Yeah, with many providing bereavement leave as well. Prescriptions, dental, and vision care was affordable. 100%. Mars Falcon on the on the French protests. Let him eat austerity. Macron Antoinette. Très bien, mon ami. Catherine Wolf, I have to wait until I'm 66 years. I'm 63. Oh, 66. Excuse me. I have to wait until I'm 66 years and 10 months. I'm 63 and 8 months. Right now, I may take the penalty and retire early. I don't blame you, sister. Jim Green, when I die, I want to come back as a French leftist. Seriously. Hell yeah. Zix says, when I started working about 1976, I had full health care, dental, and something that used to be known as a pension. And none of it was taken from my paycheck. I made $9,400 a year, had an apartment, car, and party money. Oh, I'm freaking jealous. My God. Mars Falcon says, the French know how to left for real, Jim Green. Yeah. Jim Green agrees with the badasses for sure. The left with teeth. Hell yeah. We're going to wolf around a little bit for sure. Patrick Thibodeau, evening all. I've been watching Second Thought for a few years now, and I don't think I ever knew what he looked like until now. Yeah, his voice don't sound nothing like I would expect him to look. Lawrence St. Laurent says, but it's true that the post-WW2 social democratic consensus lasted longer here, thanks in part to a strong communist party. Hell yes. Jim Green asked, do you mean socialists? And let's see here what he did mean. Never mind. I don't see it, but it's probably in there. All right, let's jump down a little bit. Catherine Wolf says, that's why my fave of all is Sam Cedar, also from Air America days. Ooh, he's the best. I got to tell you, I fully expect to... I'm going to let you all in on a secret about this show. Do I fantasize that one day it will become a network that is a massive, useful machine for yada, yada, yada? Sure. What I'm hoping for, though, within the realm of more realistic stuff, is that this show gets just big enough that somebody like Sam Cedar notices it, sees an opportunity, and does their own version. Does their own little what you can do at the end of every majority report. Or Midas Touch starts doing a little, and here's the link to go to blank to now do the next thing. Which will, bury the show because they'll take the bit and they'll have a audience of millions already. And you know what? They call that dying happy. So per the comment from earlier, tell them about this. One of the best case scenarios is that they steal this here idea and do it themselves, because that just means your old pal Jake will be thrust back out into the working world that now is bolstered by shows like The Majority Report telling us all how we can fix things up. In the meantime, I'm going to keep foxing with you.
The balance of power of the 50s was nothing more than a temporary compromise that only held while capitalists were satisfied. Bottom line is, we're not going to find a solution in some mythologized past. It's only going to be when people have actual collective autonomy to make economic decisions and aren't forced to generate profits for a small group of wealthy businessmen that work can actually and durably improve. If you only take one thing away from this video, let it be this. Your job will never truly improve under capitalism. So long as the profit motive is the guiding principle of every business, safety, working conditions, and basic human dignity will always be an afterthought. If we want to get to a place where we can take pride in our work, enjoy a good work-life balance, and use new technology for the benefit of all workers, capitalism needs to go. I mentioned at the beginning.
I mean, the man just nailed it. Except, I don't really get that last part. It got a little vague at the end for me. Yeah, I'm with him, but this is where me and the left culture part ways, because the conversation never finishes, and I don't think that's intentional. I don't think they're just trying to perpetuate the badness so they have something to talk about. No. I think it's just not part of the culture to do anything. We're so used to losing, we don't even try to win. But folks, we're in the environment where winning is not only possible, it's probable. We just use the tools at hand. Show you the kind of tools I'm talking about. Yeah. Right, John? Probably help if I load up the correct website. What do you think? Grab that there. We're good. Son of a gun. We're going to go to a little place called the Center for American Progress, who's already done the lion's share of this, yeah? Nope, that's not what we wanted. And I am going to show it to you. It's going to be stellar. Just stellar TV. By the way, we have a bizarre mix that I absolutely love in our audience. We got 18-year-olds next to 66-year-olds next to 34-year-olds. It's not at all what I expected, and I'm just so delighted by it. Here's what we can do. In essence, what he was saying in the end there is that workers need more permanent power, because capitalist forces will always be working against them. So American workers need the ability to negotiate against their bosses, essentially. Well, here's 11 things. Been out for a while now. 11 things that state and local governments can do to build worker power. I'm going to jump right to the list. Strengthen public sector unions. Government agencies, which are more constrained in their ability to offer competitive compensation packages, often find it difficult to recruit and retain staff, but strong public sector unions can help employees bargain for family-supporting wages and benefits and grant them a voice on the job, while also increasing the quality of public services. During recessions, for example, unions can help ensure the government budget decisions are equitable. In other words, a bunch of business owners got huge COVID grants. Tons and tons of bailouts. And what did the people get? The people got two measly little payments. What did we find when we studied this? Well, those two measly little payments boosted the economy massively. However, laws governing public sector unions vary significantly across states. Several states prohibit all government employees from organizing or only allow certain groups of public sector workers, such as police and firefighters, to unionize, while excluding teachers and other public employees. Moreover, federal and state level attacks on public sector collective bargaining rights have weakened the ability of the public sector unions to advocate for government employees and their families. Now, with state and local governments facing major budget shortfalls due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic recession, public sector bargaining could again come under threat. Strong public sector unions will play an important role in fending off layoffs, etc. Repeal right-to-work laws. Whatever state you're in, check if there is a right-to-work law. Michigan just had to get rid of them because they were killing our workers, literally, in a lot of cases. So-called right-to-work laws weaken unions by allowing workers to benefit from a union contract, for example, by receiving higher wages and benefits, without being required to pay the costs of negotiating or administering it. In other words, it allows you to get the union benefits literally without paying your union dues. And they rely on the greed of the individual to fuck over everybody, including that greedy individual. You go into a job, they say, do you want to join the union? You say no. They say, okay, oh, well, you still get union benefits, so what's your motivation? If you're not somebody who keeps an eye on the bigger picture, well, guess what happens? Allow workers not covered under the National Labor, NLRA, to unionize and collectively bargain. The state's hallmark federal labor legislation, the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, we got through it, excludes millions of workers, including farm workers, domestic workers, and independent contractors from its coverage. This means that under federal law, these workers do not have the basic legal right to join together and bargain collectively. We're not going to read this whole thing. I'm just going to tell you straight up, that's for your senator. You contact your senator about that. Links in the description. The repeal right-to-work laws, that's for the people at the state level. Click on the same link. It'll tell you everybody from next door in your district to who is the president of the United States. It will tell you everybody who is your representative. For the repealing right-to-work laws, if you're in a state that has right-to-work laws, contact your state-level representatives, contact your governor, etc., etc., etc. If you're talking about allowing workers who are not covered under the NLRA to unionize, that's for your senator and your representatives that represent you on a national level. Jumping down, protect workers in non-traditional work arrangements. It would be like Uber. A significant portion of the U.S. workforce is engaged in alternative work arrangements as gig workers, independent contractors, on-call workers. Holy Christ, I've been that. That's not fun. Online platform workers and workers for temp agencies. These non-traditional workers face a number of challenges, including more volatile hours and lower rates of health insurance coverage. Workers labeled or mislabeled as independent contractors are also excluded from core minimum wage, overtime, paid leave, anti-discrimination, and collective bargaining protections. Jump down. Policymakers should clarify the employer-employee relationship and ensure that employees are not wrongly labeled as independent contractors. And again, this will be calls for more budget in the agencies that measure these things. Create workers' boards to establish industry-wide standards. Policymakers, in other words, the people we elect, should establish workers' boards. In other words, the people that need your vote for a re-election. So if you tell them that it's dependent on this, this is going to have an effect. Policymakers should establish workers' boards, also known as wage boards. These tripartite, but Jesus Christ, these tripartite. All right, here's a beef with the left, and I am so guilty of it too. Hey, Johnny Dictionary, just use normal language. I shouldn't require a pause in a Google every third paragraph. These tripartite bodies bring together representatives of workers, businesses, government, and the public to recommend wage standards, training, paid time off, etc. for occupations and industries because workers' boards can set pay levels above state or local minimum wage floors and provide pay differentials for workers with additional skills or expertise. They are better positioned to increase compensation for middle-income earners than a single minimum pay standard. In other words, yeah, we can do something huge like raise the minimum wage, and then you have all these people who are making like $25 an hour who are saying, well, I don't want this kid making my hamburger at the fast food place to make $20 an hour, because then comparatively, what did I do all that school for? For $5 an hour? That's why I went to school for 4 years? That doesn't seem worth it. Well, this is how you fix that. Create boards to establish industry-wide standards. Again, talk to all of your representatives about that. Ensure that government spending creates good jobs. Each year, state and local governments fund millions of jobs through spending on contracts, grants, and loans, as well as through tax breaks and economic development subsidies. This spending can fund many things, including the construction of new roads and bridges, maintenance of public buildings, and in-home care for the elderly and people with disabilities. Do you remember when we were... Okay, no. Do you remember when we were discussing the kind of stuff we could be doing if we weren't arguing about goddamn Mr. Potato Head with Republicans? This is why we need to go all blue in 2024. We do need government-made jobs, and we do need those jobs to be focused on making our lives easier, getting rid of the potholes, getting rid of the long circuitous routes when building one road through a barren stretch of land would cut off an hour from your trip. We need these little tedious things taken care of by somebody who is paid a fair wage to do so. Jump down, see if we get any juicy ones. Oh, baby, we sure do. Give workers a voice in setting and enforcing public health standards. I want to stress this was written in 2021, in February of 2021. Have we learned since then? Have we learned? I think so. More than 400,000 Americans have died from COVID-19. It's over 1 million now, baby. In many cases, workers contracted the virus while on the job. Those essential workers that were so essential that we wouldn't give them health care and we wouldn't pay them more than peanuts. Those essential workers. A lot of cops. Number one cause of death on duty is COVID-19. Under the Trump administration, the Federal Occupation Safety and Health Administration largely abdicated its responsibilities to set and enforce workplace health safety standards during the pandemic. The Biden administration has promised significant changes, but they haven't delivered, such as issuing an emergency temporary OSHA standard. However, states can also take important steps to further safeguard worker health by providing workers with a voice in setting and enforcing public health standards for the workplace, which would help address the current public health emergency as well as make workers safer for the future. Quiz time. All right, let's look at that paragraph. I'm going to ask you a quiz. However, states can also take important steps. States can also take important steps to further safeguard worker health. Who do you contact? There's your quiz. Who do you contact? I ask you, let's just find out. See what you have to say. Zix says, my father wasn't born here and none of my grandparents were, so I'm kind of a new American. Good. You have perspective that is going to be extraordinarily useful. Wireless Mike says, I feel like this bears repeating. If minimum wage had kept up with inflation and cost of living, it would be over $32 per hour right now. Yeah. No notes. You are correct, sir. So the answer is, to who do you contact? You contact your state-level reps to get folks to do state-level things. You have a state Congress that works, for the most part, just like the U.S. Congress. You contact your governor. If you click on the link in the description, you can contact your state-level reps about this. Take actions to enforce workplace standards. Look, the list goes on. There's 11 of these motherfuckers. We're going to do this last one for sure. But the point is, the link is in the description to this. Any one of these things, if you know how to read this and know who to contact, it really just comes down to state or U.S. You know who to contact. Pick one, contact them, put pressure generally on them. Make them see that the people who are involved in politics, the people who follow this in 2023, the people who are going to be real reliable voters in 2024, they give a damn. And this is the stuff they give a damn about. And they better do things generally, at least, to increase the strength of workers. They better dance for your vote. Make them dance. Let's read this last one because it's a knockout. Partner with unions to ensure, good God, to ensure workers understand and can access workplace benefits. State and local governments can also involve worker organization in benefits provision to ensure that government programs reach the people who need them. Currently, many benefits programs such as unemployment insurance and workers' compensation can be hard to navigate alone, which leads to underutilization. When you are in a union and you give them, let's say, $2 a month, why? What are you hiring one of your fellows to do? To read and understand this complex stuff. And you're hiring somebody else to then negotiate with some monsters on your behalf. That's worth the union dues. Currently, many benefits programs, such as unemployment insurance and workers' compensation, can be hard to navigate alone, which leads to underutilization. For example, less than half of employed workers in 2019 applied for unemployment insurance benefits, and even fewer received them. Christ. To boost uptake rates for this and similar programs, governments could fund unions and workers' organizations to raise awareness of benefit programs, help workers complete application forms, and protect workers from retaliation. That one is huge. These navigators could connect workers with unemployment insurance and workers' compensation benefits, as well as train workers on health insurance and retirement benefit programs. Oregon's state government, hell yeah, Oregon, let's hold you up here, for example, collaborates with SEIU Local 503 to train public sector workers on health insurance and retirement plans. Partnering with trusted worker organizations can help ensure that workers both understand and utilize the workplace benefits provided to them. We work hard for these victories. We should take advantage of them. Contact your representatives. Believe it or not, it is the beginning of an era of strength for the left around the world. And I think in a way that is going to make our friends across the pond furious. I think we're going to see the first huge change happen in America. Well, as I say that, I take it back. France. France is really the leader here. But I think America is going to get credit for it. Because I think the right, as they've existed, it's done. It doesn't mean there's nothing to fight. Oh, God, no. No, we have to fight hard because they're dying ugly. But the truth is out there now. And it's spreading. And if we want it to be a less ugly fight, if we want the fight to be over within our lifetime so we can enjoy some of this, so we can enjoy an America that's chill and fun and making progress, and in fact, enjoy a planet, a France, a Canada, a Mexico, a United States, a Uruguay that's having a good time and prospering. Convert and convince. Convert others to vote with you if you can, or at least not vote for the monsters they were planning on. Convince the people that we've already got in office to do what we want. Those are the two things we are going to be doing over and over and over again. And we'll be doing them different ways. And we'll be getting creative with our tactics. But ultimately, that's all it's going to come down to. Convert new folks to the side of the angels. Convince the people who are in office to do what we want. And each victory is going to make the rest of the fight easier. Every time we win, we're going to become stronger. We can, we will. We're going to have fun doing it. Check out what the Wicked community has to say. OSHA, says Dean Oldfield. Oh, hell yes. UFCW, number 114, says Dean Oldfield in Portland, Oregon. Okay, good shout out. Zix1326, LOL, as you're saying, France, I keep laughing about the Jon Stewart clip you played last night. Oh, that was so good. A little painful, but good. I think America needs, I think it is incredibly helpful for people in a country to receive commentary about their country from people outside of it, or about anything really, from people outside it. It helps us get a hold of ourselves. Speaking of, Lawrence St. Laurent, delighted to have you joining us today. Well, folks, I had a blast hanging out with you, but I got me some clipping to do, so I'm gonna go get to it. We are going to do a show every weeknight at 8 p.m., assuming the internet stays up. Remember, if you are interested in seeing the show as it's constructed and seeing the many, many things I confidently write, so sure that it's going to be in the show and then delete, feel free to check it out. You can also feel free to become a member, because for $5 a month, I'm going to do things like I just showed you. I'm going to use that money to grow the show, to make connections, to make this a stronger and stronger and stronger platform for getting things done. And we gonna whoop some fascist ass. Can't wait. It's been fun so far. Let's keep it going. Consider joining the membership. Hit like if you haven't hit like. Hit subscribe if you haven't hit subscribe. And if you are subscribed and you have liked it and you are a member, consider hitting that bell icon over the subscribe button, which will give you notifications for when we go live, so you can get more WYCD Wicked. That stands for what you can do, and you can do a hell of a lot. My name's Jake.